we're about maybe 3 years into rolling out the restorative practices, and it was started from a grassroots organization because the state had come in and told us we needed to do things differently, and we'd already been doing a lot. And I don't know, we didn't want to. We just needed to be able to do something on our own that we thought was right as teachers. So we got engaged in the process. However, that was a long time ago now, and I think people have forgotten why we all started, and some have fallen off the bandwagon, and we're primarily special ed programs, so we have a lot of assistants and TAs that maybe were not so engaged in that process. We have some administrative support, actually quite a bit, but when we talk about people being involved and giving choices to be involved in circles, our problem comes at a real basic community building level. People don't want to be involved in just even the fun community building activities. They choose not to join. And, you know, I don't know what you can do about that. I don't know what to do about that. Or I'm talking staff.
Well, yeah, I have a suggestion. And it has to do with convincing the administrator to do this, or for you to just decide to do it for yourself. One school always starts their staff meetings in circle, and I'm making air quotes, in that it's a small enough school, so everybody goes around, and I don't know if they do it with a talking piece or not, but they go around and they say their name and they say the name of a student that they appreciate that day. And then they have a meeting as they normally have a meeting, and then at the end they go around again and ask people, give me one word, how was our staff meeting today? So there was a kind of a check-in and a check-out, if you will, and that was a simple way to have a little bit of circle happening in the staff meeting. Whenever I run a meeting, I always have people introduce themselves, and I really like a talking piece, and I tell them, and they're stuck with me. So if people just decide to do it as a normal matter of course, it can be something that people discover is useful in just your daily practice. And it does help a lot for the administrator to step up and say, this is the way we're going to do it. This is the way I'm going to open our staff development meeting, for instance. So those are just some thoughts.
Yeah, well, we've been in and out of it. We've gone through a lot of different administration, but we do have an administrator, or have had administrators that will do that, but it stays with the faculty meeting. It doesn't go into the classroom when we do our group in there, our circles in there. In my class, I tell people, my assistants, that they have to join. I mean, because otherwise it's terrible. It's a terrible model for the students. It's just terrible. So I tell them that they have to join, and I don't know. I don't know that. I don't feel like it's the right thing to do, but I don't know what else to do.
Well, it also makes me think that you keep repeating the implementation stages, and so you may have gone all the way through to full implementation, and now you need to go back to exploration, and you need to figure out a way to engage the staff to consider this again. The whole staff and all of the students and all of the family members. You just might have to go back to that very beginning stage. Something to consider.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sherry. Thank you for that question. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the mics. We have quite a few people still wanting to ask questions. Sherry, welcome. Where are you from?
Hi, it's Shari. I'm from California. Hi, Nancy and Rita. Thank you so much.
Hi, Shari.
Nancy. Hi. So my situation is actually I asked this question to Kay and Carolyn the other day, and Carolyn, I think, passed the buck to you, Nancy. So said, ask Nancy. So So my situation is that I have the opportunity to be in front of administrators, superintendents, and so forth that gather regionally. Perhaps they're not all from one district or one school, right? So I have the opportunity to do like a broad sweep teaser, like this is what it's about. Are you interested? Can we get you to bite the hook, kind of thing? And I would like your input. We definitely do a good job of creating the urgency and the data and the Dear Colleague letter and the guiding principles document, all that stuff flows through the pipeline, etc. And then we want them to have a circle experience. It's usually a very large group. Sometimes it's been up to 80. Next time it's going to be 50. So I do fishbowl. So I'm going to do a fishbowl circle. And I'd love your ideas about bridging to the administrative mind in how I introduce guidelines. I always do use a talking piece, so potentially a good talking piece for this. There's definitely some tension around, whoa, this feels like a big stretch from our mindset into this a lot of times. So the introduction of the guidelines and perhaps a couple of good go-rounds that create the experience without being too much of a stretch. And it's generally, so it's going to be about a circle of 20. There may be, 2 rounds. Sometimes you can get a third round in there. There's always reflection after it. So that's kind of the setting. And usually have maybe, half hour. I could maybe sometimes stretch it to an hour if it's really happening and I can drop in. But, yeah. That's it.
So you want some feedback on that, Shari?
I'd love some your thoughts and ideas about how to bridge. It's a bridge building.
Well, I have out of necessity, the mother of invention, had to have a staff of 100 experience circle. And so I did the following thing. I got myself an outline for a values circle I made up with an opening and a closing and just kind of simple directions for people to be able to follow along. And I wrote it down in a script similar to what you can find your own at Circle Forward. You can find all sorts of circles in there. And I folded that 2-page outline into and put it into a brown paper bag along with a cloth napkin, a talking piece, I think it was a stone, and a small package of Kleenex, some paper plates and markers. And I made 10 or 15 of these brown paper bags and brought them to the school that I was doing the training. We met in the gymnasium, set up chairs around the jump ball circle so that people knew how to make a circle. You can get 100 people to say their name in under 3 minutes, sending around the talking piece, and then I explained what circle was. And then they got into circles of 7. And one person volunteered in each one of those circles to be the keeper, and they took that brown paper bag and they went and they took their chairs and they went off and they made different individual circles. So everyone had the experience of circle. I explained common agreements and explained it goes around in order and you don't interrupt. Now go have a good time. And then after that experience was over with, they came back to the big circle and we had just general conversations. I think a fishbowl is nice, but it's not the same as having your own skin in the game, where you have to say what your name is and what you saw on the way to the training today and what your value is written down on a piece of paper and what that means for you and how that is important for you to be able to work with yourself and other people. So that's just a suggestion, and it will stretch them. And it's true, they'll be stretched, and some people might find this really hard, and other people might not. And you just keep coming back, I guess. Was that useful?
Great. Yes, very useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Shari, and also thank you to Barb. Nancy and Rita, would it be okay if we take one more question? We just have lots of them tonight. I know we're going just slightly a bit over. Is
Sure.
it possible to do one more?
That's totally fine, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let's open up the mic again. Let's see here. We have a couple different Jeannies tonight. Jeannie S. I've opened up your mic. Welcome, and please share where you're from.
I'm from Seattle, Washington. And my question is, are those videos of circles available somewhere, or did you make them, or where could I go?
Oh, I forgot to tell you. Yes. So on the Department of Education the Minnesota Department of Education website, go to education.state.mn.us, MN for Minnesota. And you'll get the main page, and you put into the search engine restorative practices. You come to a restorative practices page, and at the very top there is a list of videos. And so a couple of us gathered together, and we found videos pertaining to schools and restorative practices and put them into a list. And so the length of the video is on there, and different videos. There are videos from restorative practices for Oakland youth, and from Oakland Unified School District, and San Francisco, and Michigan, and one from Venezuela. I mean, there's all kinds of quick circles with quick videos that explain different components of restorative practices. And it also has a...
Sorry, Nancy. I just wanted to share with everybody that on that main master page, we'll make sure we list all of these links that you're sharing right now. So we'll make sure that along with the slide presentation and the audio from tonight, that those resources will be available for everybody.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you. Shall we do one more, or shall we close? We have one more person that has been waiting for a long time.
Go ahead.
Tonight. Okay. All right, Peggy. Hi, and share with us where you're from.
Springfield, Ohio, kind of central in the state. And
welcome.
No, thank you. This has been wonderful. I am not an educator, but I sure am interested in this, and I want to say I've been a foster parent for like 30 years, and I just think the circles is wonderful. I've had a little experience with it, but my question is, one of your cautions was, about adults trusting youth, and something that's been going through my head all along because of the difficulty dealing with children who lie. And I'm just wondering how you handle that in the circle where, either the person who did the harm or the one that's harmed may not be honest. And how do you deal with that?
So I can add a little bit to that. One of the hardest things for young people to experience is abandonment.
Right.
And so if there's any reason why telling the truth will push abandonment on the child is not going to tell the truth, right? So if we can create an ethos, like we're not going to throw you away. Kay talked about this in the last webinar, where that no one is a throwaway person, that everybody is going to be held, and that abandonment is not what's going to happen if you are able to say what you did wrong, right? So, and that takes a while. When I was a dean at the school, and young people were sent out of class, and when they came to me, they said, well, they didn't know what happened, why they got sent out, and I had to observe that in the 32 kids, you're the only one down here. Something must have happened, and so let's have a conversation about that. And after 3 months of not throwing them away, not sending them home, not pushing them out, they were able to say, okay, Ms. Alfred, this is what I did this and I did that, but I'm not going to fix it. So it becomes like a developmental thing now. So they are able to acknowledge it, and the reason they acknowledge it is because they weren't pushed away. They were given a way to think about it, to reflect about it, and then find ways to make it right again. So that's the big piece that we need to do, is that make space for belonging. People who make mistakes are not bad. So how do we do that? And in our culture, it's different.
But how do you handle that in a circle situation right on the spot? I don't know.
You have to do that in preparation. You have to do that when you're preparing. Yeah, your preparation and your follow-up are the very important things in this process. So in the preparation, if the young person is not willing to tell the truth, then it's going to be really, really hard to go into circle. The child might need support to be able to tell the truth. The child might need some reassurance that they're not going to be sent away. And then when in circle, and they might fall back on, not wanting to tell the truth, you take a break. Let's take a 10-minute break, have a conversation with the child. Where are you? Are you able to do this? Is there anything I can help you with? What do you need to be able to make this right? You're not going to be pushed away, reassuring them. Right. And then follow up.
I think another key component is.
I love it.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to add. There's another key component, and that is that, and this is one of the things that tells me that people understand restorative practices. That it's not a bunch of adults and a kid that are in circle trying to repair the harm. That maybe the student was the person who initiated it. A student should be able to come with somebody who can support them, or maybe 2 or 3 people who can support them. Because telling the truth is hard, and you need support for that. And so just being the sole person in there with nobody there to support you makes it, it makes it harder. You do worry about whether or not you're abandoned. But if you have friends there, if you have family there, if you have a teacher that cares about you, then it's easier to be honest.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. It's just been wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I sure hope we can get this in all of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you so much. And Nancy and Rita, would you like to share how people might stay in touch with you, and any closing comments as we close our time together tonight? It's been extraordinary.
Well,
Nancy, do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
No,
I'm going first, or are you going first?
Yeah, you're going first, Nancy.
I can be reached at the Department of Education, nancy.riestenberg@state.mn.us. I may not answer emails immediately, but I do eventually find my way to answering everybody who contacts me, because they're all our children, and it's all our schools.
So you can reach me at the Restorative Justice Training Institute, rjtica.org. And I think the last comment that I would want to make is that, when people cannot take responsibility, it is the responsibility of the community to help. And in some indigenous communities, they take responsibility that something like this, some harm could actually even happen, and that it's their responsibility to take care of it. So can we say that when something wrong happens, we are not bystanders, we are actively involved? Whether that happens or doesn't happen has a lot to do with who we are as a community. Thank you, Molly.
I just want to thank you both so much for being with us tonight and for contributing the depth of your wisdom and experience. Nancy Riestenberg, of course, and Rita Alfred, and to the learning community that is an international community. We have over 200 people from global locations with us during this course. And I'd just like to close tonight by sharing with you an invitation to join us live again next week, of course, for Session 3, which will be Building Systems to Promote Dialogue, How Restorative Circles Support Community Responses to Conflict. And that's with Dominic Barter, who was a part of our opening summit a few weeks ago before we started our overview course series. Of course, he's again with Restorative Circles, Círculos Restaurativos, based in Rio de Janeiro, but also internationally. And next week, he'll be covering some things such as looking at the most challenging of circumstances that they've experienced in the favelas in Rio, and how there is still possibility of restoration and understanding, and an awareness of how that community and other communities besides the favelas have walked towards conflict of the most brutal kind. He's going to share insights and building blocks on existing knowledge that lead to holistic systems based in relationship and commonly accepted and honored values. For more information about restorative circles, if you're interested in prepping a bit before our time together next Wednesday, February 24th at this same time slot, go to restorativecircles.org. That's restorativecircles with an S.org. And finally, don't forget that tomorrow you're going to receive a follow-up email from tonight's session that will include a link to our master page for all of our learning communities access. That's at peacealliance.org/teach-course-page. And then you enter your password, peace is the way, and you have access to all of the audios. You can download those onto your iPod or your computer, and you can even put them onto a CD to put in your car as you're driving. Please pass that information along to anyone you think might not know that they can. If they're in this course, they can download it. And also, if you have a learning community that you've gathered in your district, in your community or school, feel free to listen in to that session together at another time. A lot of people cannot make these live sessions, but we have all these materials for you. And again, we are offering a certificate of completion for those of you who would like to submit for CE or CEUs in your district or community, whether you're an educator or a professional of another kind within the system. So thank you again for your participation in this learning community, and we really are looking forward to seeing you next week. I'm going to go ahead and close out tonight like we did last time by opening up everybody's mics so that we can say good night. So thank you, everyone. On behalf of the Peace Alliance and the NACRJ, it's been my pleasure, and thank you again to Nancy and Rita. And let's all say good night as we go out
good night.
Next week.
Good night. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Penny.